Welcome to Holistic Human Performance Podcast. My name is Gena Bradshaw, where we talk all things holistic health, wellness, spirituality, fitness, meditation, energetics, and so much more to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. Let's dive in. This is not medical advice. This is simply to help you on your journey through health, fitness, and wellness. I hope this helps. You can complement this with anything that you are doing currently in your life. Enjoy. I can't believe it. It's finally here. Oh, I'm so excited to bring this to you all today. If you're feeling unfulfilled, body pain every single day, not sure where to turn, feeling stuck in your life, really curious about holistic living and spiritual practices, listen further. I have created this beautiful course that is my methodology that I've used into my own life, into clients, students, readers' lives, and it is called Metaphysics Your Health, Find Your Soul's Purpose. Health and purpose are directly correlated. You cannot have one without the other. When you're feeling fulfilled, you become healthier. When you're healthier, you find your soul's mission and purpose. And that is exactly what you're going to learn in this course. You're going to learn about all of the metaphysical approaches to health and wellness, holistic living. You're going to detox your internal world, your external world, and apply all of these amazing integrational tools and practices into your life. This is a foundational approach that you can come back to anytime, whenever you level up and you need to come back to the basics. You can come back to this course whenever you need. I'm going to have a ton of bonus items, and you'll also get a special add-on to work with me one-on-one. And if this is something that you are intrigued by, I highly recommend, because the price will go up after a couple of months. So if you're listening to this now, go get it while you can. And I'm also going to have guest speakers to talk about astrology, human design, how that applies to our health and our lives. And with that, it is going to be life-changing. So if you're ready for that and you're ready to let the old you go, let your old life go, then this is the course for you. If you are a one-on-one client and a community member, you get automatic access to this course. So welcome to Metaphysics Your Health. I will leave the link in the show notes, or you can find it at www.holistichumanperformance.co/digital courses. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Gena Bradshaw, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Jeff Patterson. He is the founder of Northwest Fighting Arts. He is the author of The Yielding Warrior and How to Meditate. And we are really going to take a deep dive into meditation today and learning about his style and really just some tools, tips, tricks that you all can take with you, because meditation is very important. And I believe it helps us with our health, our overall well-being, and just with our lives in general. So I'm really excited to talk about this with Jeff. Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. All right. So you've done a lot of cool things. And I'm really curious, like what kind of, because you do have a martial arts background, like what got you into that realm of life, of that industry? What got you there?
So I've always been interested in the martial arts since a pretty young age. However, I came from pretty modest means, and as a child, I didn't have access to join an academy or something
Mm,
similar. So as I started working in my teens, I was able to afford to start up at a local academy, and I joined the Marine Corps, did that for 4 years, came up here to Portland to go to school, and continued my martial training. And this is about the time where I was really into Western boxing, and I met a boxing coach at a local gym that's just a few blocks here from my academy. And he was an amazing coach. He had created national and world champion level fighters. And I really wanted to get to spend some time with him and learn from him. And so I would always show up at the gym when I knew he was going to be there and let him know I wanted to work hard and that I'd be a good fighter for him. And so after about 3 or 4 months of following him around, he finally started giving me some tips and showing me a few things. And it was only about 2 or 3 weeks of training with him when he said something to me that changed my life forever. And that he said, if you really want to be a good boxer, you should start doing Tai Chi and meditation. And
Oh.
at the time, I was this young kid thinking, isn't that for like old people in the park? How's that going to help me be a better fighter? And I started doing the practice and it changed my life in so many ways. And through the years, I've been running this academy for 30 years now. I've had thousands of students come through the academy, and I've literally heard hundreds of stories of how the meditative arts has positively influenced people's lives. And that's kind of what's made me so passionate about writing my last couple books and getting this message out there and creating my online program for the meditative arts.
I am obsessed with meditation. And I will say also, I got into meditation when I was an athlete. And
Nice.
it started with yoga though. I was on the track and field team in college, and we had once a week on Sundays, like our off days, would be this yoga practitioner coming in. And I think it was like my junior or senior year. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, I'm like into this. And I was like drawn to it. And that kind of opened up the lens of all these. I mean, there's thousands of ways to meditate. And it opened up a whole new world to me, like with just feeling more calm, like before I got on the line. And it really, like you said, it's life changing. I can't even say any more good things about it.
So did that lead you to any other forms of meditation, or did you stick with the yoga for a long time, or what else have you
Oh
looked
no.
into?
Oh yeah, it opened up like Pandora's box. So I was looking into all different types of
Nice.
meditations. Personally for me, like yoga, I view it as a form of active meditation. And so that was cool, but then I was like, we need to go a little bit deeper. And so I really practiced by utilizing like breath work to get into kind of those meditative states. And now I'm really at the point where like I don't need music, I don't need anything. I could just sit outside and I can just take a couple breaths and I can drop in. But that does take practice. So let's gear into meditation. What kind of got you to this point of, saying like I'm going to write a book about this?
Well, 30 years of teaching the meditative arts gave me a lot of experience. And, I've spent my whole career studying the meditative arts, and I've traveled around the world many times and trained with many different teachers around the world. And it's just kind of become a calling of mine. I live the lifestyle. I love it. I love to share the information with other people. I've had such great relationships that have come out of my academy for the last 30 years. I literally have students that have been here for 30 years, which is kind of
Oh,
like my second family, which is pretty cool.
amazing.
And because I've seen so much success with the practice of meditation, I wanted to share it with more people. And that's kind of what motivated me to write the book and create my online program, because I've just seen so much positive benefits through the practice.
Yeah. Now, I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you do too. I can't meditate. I can't sit still. I can't do it. What do you say to the people that, are not like they're open to meditation, but they have no clue where to start? Like where do you start with people like that?
A, a couple things that I would like to touch on with that question. One
Yeah.
is I've myself have heard lots of people come in and say, I can't meditate, I can't quiet my mind, I'm too busy, I can't sit still. And somewhere along the way, people got this misconception that
Mm,
meditation was meant to be this place where you're in this blissful state of nirvana and nothing else bothers you.
right.
It's not that way, and I've been fortunate enough in my career to train with some of the most well-known meditation teachers on the planet, and everybody gets distracted. You're not different than anybody else. We all come up against that. But say you do a sitting practice or standing meditation or even a movement meditation, and you do that 20 minutes a day. Maybe you get distracted 100 times during that session, but when you get distracted, you can use your breath, use your posture, use the movement if it's a movement practice to help bring you back to center. And now, two things are happening here. One is we're building a repetition of being distracted and coming back to that center focus.
Mm,
And because we're focusing on this, we're able to recognize the first sign of imbalance that takes us off center. And so when we start doing this every day, year after year, we start to get so many repetitions. Now, when you're walking down the street and somebody throws you off center, or you really have a stressful day at work, it's a lot easier to notice those imbalances and use these tools and meditative methods to help bring you back to focus to maintain a lot better, even relaxed lifestyle rather than one that's like a roller coaster where your emotions are going up and down all the time.
yeah, that is most definitely a positive benefit of meditation. It's that emotional resiliency and being able to handle, life is going to keep on lifing, and, utilizing that tool to help you on your day-to-day basis. So you're managing your stress levels and you're not getting all frazzled, and then it throws you off your whole day and you're not able to concentrate. So, I mean, even just for myself, I can say that has definitely been just such a benefit. And I mean, who wants to be on an emotional roller coaster on their day-to-day basis? I know
Right.
I don't. Um, so what are like your favorite ways to bring your students, your clients through when it comes to meditation? Are there specific styles that you gear towards mostly, or because you've trained with a lot and there's so many different styles of meditation, but is there ones that you find that are your main tool that you use?
So I break down the meditative practices into ritual practices, active practices, and philosophical practices.
Mm,
Ritual practices can be sitting practices, standing meditations, a qigong set, a yoga practice, a tai chi form, something where you set time aside every day and you do 20 minutes, a half an hour, whatever that is for you, and you do it consistently. And this is the most important thing with any meditative practice. It's meant to be a lifestyle, something that we live and something that we do every day, like we're brushing your teeth. It's not meant to be a hobby. And so we want to find something that we enjoy and something that we can be successful with. And the meditative arts are very scientific. There's
mm,
no there's no one way to do certain things. So usually when somebody comes into the academy, if it's somebody who has a difficult time sitting down for 20 minutes, I would definitely recommend a movement practice like a Qigong set or maybe a Tai Chi routine to help
mm,
them get used to being in that meditative state and start integrating this into their lifestyle. That would be an example of ritual practices. Then we have active practices, and these are things that we can do all day, every day. They can be done in as little as 60 seconds or 3 minutes. You can do them when you're walking down the street or standing in line at the grocery store. And they can be as simple as counting out 10 breaths or doing some spinal rotations or a simple movement practice for a few minutes to just bring our awareness back into the body. And then lastly, we have philosophical practices, and these can be things that we use as an active practice or as a ritual based practice. And so we'll integrate these three different modalities into an evolving life practice around the meditative arts. And, there's so many distractions, and you already mentioned this as far as the many different methods in
yeah.
that it's easy to go onto YouTube and see a million different videos on this meditation and this and that and the other. It's so important if you're looking to get into the meditative arts to have somebody help guide you on a path and tell you the shortest path towards what you want to accomplish. Because within the meditative arts, people come to them for, I've kind of broken it down into 5 categories. We have more of our athletic style of practices to help improve our performance. the therapeutic side of the practice, the medical side of the practice, the philosophical side of the practice, and also the meditative or spiritual side of the practice.
Mm.
And if you're just kind of shooting in the dark and watching this video and listening to this audio, it's very distracting, and it's kind of like, if you'd never watched the game of basketball before and I give you a ball and a net and I say go play basketball, think about how long it's going to take you to get decent at that. You got to have a coach, you got to have
Yeah.
somebody to help you in it. Our lives are short, our time is valuable. It doesn't take much to find a good quality coach or a mentor that will help you on this path. And so use that. The other thing that I'd like to mention here when it comes to meditation is you'll see all of these different videos or apps or programs, and I'll have people that will come into the academy and they'll say, I've been meditating for 10 years now. I follow this app or I've been watching this video. And the meditative arts are often called the internal arts, and they're called that for a reason. They're meant to be a time where we can focus internally and not be listening to an audio and not be watching a video. So when you're doing your ritual practice, you don't want to be listening to other things and thinking about external thoughts. We want to be coming inside and listening to our heart and listening to what's going on inside of us. And so while these are good things to use as a way to learn certain practices, don't use them as a crutch and have them be part of your ritual time that you're spending every day meditating.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, you don't want to be distracted by your phone, or like you have to go internal to be able to tap into your body and see, okay, I'm feeling this, or what's going on here? I got a little tension going on, like little restriction in the heart center. That is such a valid point. I love that. What is your favorite practice? What is your favorite meditative practice?
I don't really have a favorite practice. Every day I have about an hour and a half ritual that I do in the morning, and then I integrate active practices all day, every day. I kind of just live the meditative arts,
Hmm.
and I love the movement practices. I like the sitting meditation. I like the standing meditation. I like to be able to understand these practices like a science
Mm,
because it helps us use it for different purposes. For example, when you start learning how to be in tune with what I call the five regulations, regulating the body, regulating the breath, regulating the mind, regulating the energy, and regulating the spirit,
mm,
you can use these things to help get different energetic states throughout the day. And what I mean by that is, for example, when we talk about regulating the body, an example of that would be, think about a time when you're sitting down at your computer and your shoulders are hunched over, you've been there for 3 hours, your neck's getting tight, and you're feeling very depleted. This would be an example of something that we all are guilty of and we've done many times. And then think about another time where maybe the most important person in your world walks into the room and your body perks up, and think about how your energetic state changes. This is something that we can control all day, every day by being aware of our physical alignment, our skeletal alignment, and how we move throughout the day. And so this is the first stage of any kind of meditative practice, is regulating the body. And if somebody's disciplined at this in a 2 to 3 month window, they can make some huge changes in how their overall energetic state is by focusing on this. Then we have regulating the breath. Regulating the breath is a lifelong practice.
yeah.
There's hundreds of different breathing strategies. Oftentimes, qigong is referred to as the science of the breath, and
Mm,
we break down these different breathing strategies into yin methods and yang methods. Yin methods are often deeper, more holistic style of meditations. And what I mean by yin breath is, if you ever listen to somebody sleep, their natural breathing pattern is a longer inhale and a shorter exhale. And this is the body's natural way of bringing your conscious mind into your subconscious mind, which is where we are when we're sleeping and dreaming. And so, if we want to emulate this in our meditations, we can do longer inhales, maybe soft retentions at the end of the inhale, shorter exhales. And this
Mm,
will help bring our energy inward, which is great for stress reduction or focus. If you were dealing with anxiety or depression, these are all techniques that we can use to work with this. Then we have the yang side of the breath, and this is very energizing. And if you see a lot of combat athletes or professional athletes, they'll use chanting or they'll use this side of the breath to help energize them before a performance. Now, once you understand how to use the breath strategically, now, rather than going through the day with on this roller coaster we talked about, when you start seeing yourself get excited, you can use the breath to help bring it back down. And when you see yourself starting to get a little depleted, we can use the breath to bring it back up. And this helps give us a lot more energy throughout the day because we're so much more balanced through the day. And this is just from regulating the breath.
mm,
Then we have regulating the mind. Regulating the mind, we touched on that a little bit when we talked about when you're doing your meditation and you go off center and you learn how to come back to focus. Well, we do this all day, every day. You think about how many times we get distracted, and oftentimes we get distracted, and it takes 2 or 3 hours to get turned around. There's this story that I love about these two monks, and they're walking down this dirt road after a big rainstorm, and they come up to this beautiful lady who's standing on the other side of a big mud puddle, and she's crying. And the older monk yells across the puddle and says, "Ma'am, are you okay? Can I help you?" And she says, "I need to be somewhere, but if I walk across this puddle, I'm going to get my dress all dirty." And so he rolls up his pant legs and he walks across the puddle, picks her up, puts her on his back, takes her to the other side, and she's off on her way. Well, him and the younger monk start walking down the road. They get a couple miles down the path, and the younger monk is just furious. And he says, we're not supposed to touch ladies, but yet you did back there at the puddle." And the older monk looks down at him and he says, "You're still thinking about that lady? I left her back there at the puddle." And it's just, it's a simple story, but it
oh
shows how
man.
how many times do we get caught up thinking about these negative thoughts that lead to another and another and another. And the meditative arts helps us learn how to recognize these imbalances from that first sign of distraction and be a lot more in tune and a lot more fluid in our thought process. And this is the idea of regulating the mind. Then we
Mm,
have regulating the energy. And regulating the energy is a very deep topic and something that we could talk for 2 hours on or more
yeah.
just on this. But once you have reached a level of competence in regulating the body, regulating the breath, and regulating the mind, regulating the energy is pretty easy.
Mm,
Lastly, we have regulating the spirit. And regulating the spirit is very profound and deep. It's something that, monks and Qigong masters will spend their whole life working towards that state of enlightenment. And as I mentioned before, I've traveled around the world many times and trained with some really amazing meditation teachers. And I've never once met anybody that I would say was enlightened.
right.
I've seen a lot of people that have maybe experienced glimpses of it here and there, but to live an enlightened lifestyle, I don't even know if it's possible in today's society, and so but that's an idea of what I mean when I say the five regulations. And these are the core fundamentals in any meditative practice. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And so when you have this understanding, you can kind of approach it from more of a scientific approach in what breathing strategies you use or what movement strategies you use to get different outcomes to help you accomplish whether you're looking to reach spiritual enlightenment or you're looking to improve your athletic performance or you want to decrease your stress levels or whatever that may be. And so this is kind of like the foundation.
Yeah, I view this as a prescriptive program and like a progressive prescriptive program that, you know, like we said, it's a lifestyle. It's not something that you're like, oh, I'm going to do this today. Maybe I'll do this tomorrow. It's something that you integrate into your daily lifestyle to get to wherever you're trying to achieve and kind of work your way to, I don't want to say enlightenment, but this state of like homeostasis, of feeling good in your body, being aware, being present. I know those are the positive benefits that I have been able to experience throughout a meditative practice. And I love how you break it down with the most foundational, basic method, really. It's all these different regulatory states that just come along with doing this practice and keeping it consistent, which is
Yes,
key.
for sure.
So when you are writing, right? So you have your first book and then you have your second book. When you were writing your first book, was there a part of you, like after you were finished, where you said, I mean, there's more information. I have to write another one?
The books are not really connected at all. So it's kind of like I feel like when I have something creative like that that comes out of me, it just comes when it's ready. I don't
Mm.
really uh like right now I've got something that's boiling in there. I feel like there's something ready
Ooh.
to come out. I've got another one in the mix.
Yeah.
Uh but but yeah, the Yielding Warrior, my last book, that came from a concept that I've always been really fascinated with in the martial arts and the meditative arts. And the idea of yielding to me is really pretty special in that it can be applied to so many different areas in life. So I break it down into three categories of yielding. You have physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding. Physical yielding is the idea that I push you, you push me, whoever's the bigger, stronger person with the most leverage eventually is going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us seeing who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force. And now I can respond with less effort. So I don't have to butt heads with you and see if I'm bigger and stronger than you. Now, in order to be good at this, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight.
Mm.
The body has to be relaxed, the breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. Now, it takes years and years to get to a high level of this, but when you do, you start to notice things inside yourself that most people never even look at. And when you develop this higher sense of awareness, now you also start to see these things more clearly in other people, which is how we move into what I call mental yielding.
Mm.
Say, for example, I say something that unsettles you, and I pick up on it right from the beginning. It's a lot easier to adjust the conversation and keep us in a happy place than if I'm not paying attention to that. And pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to knock me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our interactions is extremely powerful. One, you're just being more considerate, which is something we could all do a little more of.
Yeah.
And two, it allows you to be strategic in getting interactions to a positive outcome with the least amount of resistance. And this is so valuable in our relationships, in business, in sales, and negotiations. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can apply this concept and idea. Then, lastly, we have what I call emotional yielding. And emotional yielding is very much like mental yielding, but it's with your own interpersonal conflicts. So oftentimes things will happen to us and we'll respond and we'll go down this path and we might get an hour, a day, a week down that road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But with
Mm.
yielding and our heightened awareness, and we're able to sit back when that first imbalance happens and maybe make a more educated choice, a lot of times it can save us a lot of heartache on the other side.
Mm.
And through the years, I've been explaining this idea for many years here at the Academy. And one of the most common things I'll hear people say is that, oh, it makes a lot of sense. I use yielding all the time. And what I would say to that is that I agree. I think everybody, even unconsciously, uses some degree of yielding all the time. However, it's kind of like if you or I were to walk into a crime scene with a detective who's been on the job for 30 years, he would see things about the series of events and the timelines that I know at least I would have no clue of. The meditative arts helps us see things inside of ourselves and other people that most people will never have any clue of unless they have this kind of practice.
Yeah, absolutely. It really comes back to the self and being able to connect on a different level that, like you said, other people may not even achieve in this lifetime, but you know, people like you spreading knowledge and awareness of this ancient practice that we all have within us and we can all access. I'm so glad that somebody like yourself is out there spreading this awareness and this knowledge and coming from a scientific perspective as well, because there's so many physiological changes that happen with our brain, with our nervous system, with our physical body, our emotions that happen and that shift when we do go down this route of this meditative practice. And again, looking at it from more of a progressive program and incorporating it into your lifestyle. It doesn't happen overnight though. So as we wrap up, are there any words of wisdom you would like to leave the listeners?
As you're beginning a practice, or even maybe you've been playing for a little bit and are already into the arts, you want to continue to grow and understand that there's not just one direction with the practice. There's so many, I've been studying the meditative arts now for 36 years, and I'm still just a student. I'm not nowhere close to being the master.
Right.
And, I live the lifestyle. I've been teaching it for over 30 years, and I'm still learning all the time. So it's a very deep practice. There's a lot there. Find yourself a guide, somebody that can help you and move through and save yourself a lot of time. I've literally seen people come in here that have been following the meditation practice for a long time and seeing very little results and spent hundreds of hours in their practice because they didn't have somebody helping them.
Mm.
And so find somebody in your area or a good online program, something that you can do that will help point you on the right path. If you're interested in anything that we've been talking about here, you could get a free copy of my book at theyieldingwarrior.com/book and check out kind of more of my philosophy and the idea behind yielding. And also, if you're interested in looking into the online program that we have, you can go to theyieldingwarrior.com and try out the online program on how to build a personalized meditation program. And also, if you're a yoga studio owner or a martial arts studio owner and you're looking to add another pillar in your business, we have a teacher training program up there that will help you with that as well.
Oh, great. I will put all of this in the show notes for everybody to find. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys, if you like this episode, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.